Hey guys, Paul here. So today I wanted to talk about the current state of the Yu-Gi-Oh anime and how it relates to the state of the trading card game and just the IP as a whole. Because as we all know, it's in a bit of a weird spot. And by weird spot, I mean there isn't actually a Yu-Gi-Oh anime airing right now, and I think that that's a real problem. I think it's something that Konami or Shueisha or whoever is involved in all of this needs to be addressing sooner rather than later. Now, this isn't going to be a doom and gloom video. In fact, I do want to talk a little bit about like what I would like to see from an anime, and I have talked about that a little bit in the past. I even did a video with TGS Anime to hear his thoughts on it. But first, I think that it's important to start with why it's actually so important for there to be a Yu-Gi-Oh anime. So, like, when you think about Yu Gi Oh!, it's unique among card games because Yu Gi Oh! Is actually the card game, unlike your Magic and your Pokemon and everything else, where in the show, the IP that it's based on, the characters actually were playing the same cards that you are. I know there's like, minute differences, and technically, like, Duel Monsters is separate from Yu Gi Oh! Blah, blah, blah. I know, I get it. But for the most part, if you were a kid, you were watching Yu-Gi-Oh! And then like when you got the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, it was like, wow, like I'm playing the same thing the characters on the screen are playing. And that connective tissue made it where like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not just an IP being adapted into a card game like what Pokemon is or One Piece or Digimon or something, where they're like anime first and the card game is like just a reinterpretation of those things. In Yu-Gi-Oh, you're literally playing with the cards that the people on the screen are also playing with, and so like that alone is a really big deal. Also, Yu-Gi-Oh has the nostalgia bug, but it's sort of weird. So we all know that like just right now in Hollywood and gaming everywhere, like just remakes, reboots, sort of like spin-offs and like just nostalgic retellings of everything. It's the jam right now. Like it or hate it, I don't love it to be clear, but that's sort of what people do. Like you reboot series and you resell people their childhoods. And it means though that like when you think about other card games in the space, like your Pokemon and your Lorcana and your Gundam and your Riftbound's a new one, people are able to engage with the property that is being presented on the cards actively. So there was a time in Yu-Gi-Oh where this was the case too. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But like if you think about Pokemon, you can watch the Pokemon TV show, you can play the Pokemon video games, and you can also play the card game. You'll see the same creatures and stuff throughout. Even Magic has sort of addressed this, we'll say, through Universes Beyond, where like even if Magic doesn't have like some huge multi-million-dollar movie or anime constantly airing, the fact that like Marvel and Spider-Man and Final Fantasy are still actively like they're active IPs producing new things means that like you are still engaged with the things that are on the cards in like a present day sense. Yu-Gi-Oh is different because most of what you're selling to Yu-Gi-Oh players is one of two things. Either A, the just general competition part of the equation where like you don't really care too much about the anime and Yu-Gi and Dark Magician and Blue Eyes and Kaiba and all that stuff. You just want to play the cards because they're good. You want to play Draco Tales or K9 or Yummy or whatever the current good top deck is. These people are in a sort of their own camp, and that's fine. They're just playing the game, and it's okay. It's a hyper competitive scene. It's very niche. It is, I don't want to say like stagnant or anything, but it's probably like plateaued somewhat in terms of like who's getting into it. But the reason they're getting into it is like, is so separate. Conversely, though, for most people, you're sort of advertising to them and selling them on the nostalgia of Yu Gi Oh!, the Yu Gi Oh! That they remember, their favorite characters. For the most part, this is going to be like your nostalgic, like DM, GX, some 5Ds, sales, and character imagery and stuff. And that certainly gets the Yugi boomers on board a lot of the time. But I mean, it can even be things like Vrains, things like Yu-Gi-Oh! Like Arc 5 and stuff like that, the newer ones. There's technically Go Rush and Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s, but we don't have Rush Duel here, so I don't know that those really count. I mean, you can play Duel Links, Rush Duel, it's something. But the main thing that Yu-Gi-Oh! Ends up sort of missing in this whole equation is like there isn't actually an active anime that you can engage with today. So everything sort of presupposes that you watched Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal so you can appreciate the new like Go 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 Onomot support that just came out, right? Or it sort of presumes that you watched Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, so you're excited about the new Red Dragon support that's coming in the next set, or like Legendary 5Ds decks can be appealing to you because you already watched the anime that like ended, and like you like those characters and they've stuck with you. But what Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't have right now is some like here's an example. I remember when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In like 2017, 18 and Vrains was airing, the coolest thing was the fact that like decks like Altergeists and decks like Rockets and Trickstars and all of these, decks that the anime characters themselves were using, Goki's a big one, were actually like current decks in the TCG, and many of them were like very competitive. Like Goki, Altergeist, Trickstar, like those were like meta decks early on in the sort of Reigns era. So you could literally be watching the TV show and getting the cards, and it's all kind of simultaneously happening. And that's not the case anymore. Like right now, whenever your favorite old anime deck gets support, it's like these are cards that are they didn't actually show up in the anime. That's always been a little bit of like a weird thing to me. So they can make plenty more, like Galaxy Eyes, Tachyon Dragon, like support and stuff, or they can make new Yubel cards or new, like all these new cards for existing archetypes, but you never got to see Jack or Crow or Yuma or Yusei or Playmaker use any of these cards. For the most part, they're just like original TCG creations. And I think that that's something that we really need in anime to show people and get people like invested in again. Um, and that brings me to sort of the big crux of this, which is what's going on with the anime situation. I really don't know. Like I said, I mean, I talked to TGS Anime about it. I also tend to watch like I watch like channels that are not just TCG stuff, and I want to hear like what anime fans think about the current state of things. And right now, it's very up in the air with Kazuki Takashi's passing. Things are probably pretty weird. I don't know if they can really touch the original material anymore with him not around to kind of give it the okay. I'm not sure if they could do like a reboot of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! As good as that might be. For like Gathering Eyes, I don't know if they can do it. I also don't know if they can make like a proper Yu-Gi-Oh! 9 anime, if we're calling it that, right? Like with sevens being the seventh and Go Rush being the eighth, whatever the proper Yu-Gi-Oh! 9 anime would be. I kind of don't know if like that's something that we can do. I don't know if we can have like a greatest hits. That's an idea that I always thought would be really cool. Is basically showing like weird cross-dimensional matchups. It's kind of like what Arc 5 did when like they met characters from past Yu-Gi-Oh animes, not usually the main characters, but like just characters, and they would get updated support. I also thought that could be like a cool way of doing stuff. I don't know. I guess my main thing is I think Yu-Gi-Oh needs some kind of way to show these characters and their monsters again, so that there's more interest in getting into the TCG. To talk about Yu-Gi-Oh Chronicles or whatever whatever the Chronicles. I really like what I've seen, but I just don't think it's enough. And I know that that maybe that sounds entitled, but the thing is, like the Chronicles anime, like the Albaz stuff, Sky Strikers, and they're doing Charmers now. They still kind of just have to assume that you know and care about like these TCG original concepts, and I don't know that people do. When I say that, I don't mean that like people don't like branded. I just mean that if you like branded, you already play branded, so that watching the anime isn't going to really change your mind on picking up a branded deck for the most part. It doesn't help that they're only like published in Japanese and on the OCG channel and not really used anywhere else. But yeah, so I don't think that like people, I think when people think of Yu-Gi-Oh, they think of like dual disc and a duelist with their deck entering a tournament and like playing and having an ace monster. I think that focusing on the artwork and the lore stories within the cards is a cool side project, but I don't think that's ever going to really get like new people into Yu-Gi-Oh, and that is the concern that I have. Is because it's like I think that without a currently airing anime, Yu-Gi-Oh feels like it can really like atrophy a little bit, and nobody new will get into it because you're just catering to people who already sort of play and they think it's cool. And I mean, my question even with like that stuff is when you finish watching like the Sky Striker promo anime 5 minute thing, what are you supposed to think? Like, I guess I'll play Sky Striker now, but like, if you haven't heard about Sky Striker, then you probably wouldn't have seen this, and so it's in a weird spot. I would really like to see it's a Yu-Gi-Oh 9. And the good news is that Jump Festa is happening again this year, as it always does, and that's usually where they'll announce new Yu-Gi-Oh anime. No telling if that's going to be something that we actually get, like a new Yu-Gi-Oh anime, but at this point, I'm pretty desperate, and I'll take anything. I think that I'd be okay with a reboot of DM. I think I'd be okay with a reboot of any of the other anime series. I'd be okay with a crossover between all the different series. I'd be okay with a Yu-Gi-Oh 9. I just think that we've got to get something going there because otherwise the funnel of like interest to the card game and the IP just doesn't work. And instead we're sort of left with like this weird floundering thing where like Konami puts like Yugi and Kaiba on boxes and they make like legacy support, but it's not cards that those characters use, and it kind of I guess it misrepresents what the game is like now. Like, for instance, reselling Legendary Collection Kaiba from 2018 with a bunch of bad old Kaiba anime cards, but then like the game itself doesn't really represent that. And so, you know, that's my main thing is like I think that we need an anime because an anime helps to strengthen everything else about the IP. And so much of Yu-Gi-Oh's competition right now has that, and we don't, and that's sad. So I'd like to know, what would you want to see from an anime? I know that there are people who are enjoying the Chronicles thing, and I don't want to suggest that like it's bad. I think that it should certainly continue, but I still feel like it's a side project. I still feel like we need like a duelist with wild, colorful hair and like a deck of cards and a dual disc and like and an ace monsters and a tournament, because that's to me that's what Yu-Gi-Oh is at its core, and that's what people really want out of it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the discussion talk. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it. I think that the situation's getting kind of dire. I just feel like I feel it more and more every passing year, where it's like, man, where is a new Yu-Gi-Oh anime? Like, are we gonna get one? Because every other anime does it. So I don't know. All right, cool. I will hear from you all in the comments, and see you in the next one. Pass turn.